It began in the calm of an ordinary summer, the kind where the days stretch long and slow, and the hum of fans and distant lawnmowers fill the air. Maya was 34, married to Rakesh for almost a decade, and they had a 7-year-old son named Arjun. Their life together was steady, dependable, like an old train that always arrived on time. Rakesh worked in finance, often late, and Maya had left her job as a school teacher to raise Arjun full time. It wasn't a life of passion, but it was a life that made sense. That summer, Rakesh's sister, Meena, called with a request. Her college going son, Karan, needed a place to stay for a few months while he completed a digital internship in the city. Rakesh didn't hesitate. Of course, he said, glancing at Maya with a smile. We've got the spare room. Maya remembered Karan vaguely from past family functions. He was a quiet teenager back then, lanky and polite, always buried in his phone. But when he showed up at their door a week later, dragging a suitcase and flashing an easy smile, she barely recognized him. At 21, Karan had filled out, taller now, confident, with a voice that carried a casual charm. He had his mother's soft eyes and an effortless way of making people laugh. Arjun took to him instantly. At first, Maya treated him like any other guest. She showed him the house, gave him towels, pointed to the laundry schedule. But Karan, with the ease of youth, made himself a part of their home within days. He played cricket with Arjun in the backyard, helped with dishes, and even sat with Maya in the evenings as she folded laundry or prepared dinner. Masi, you cook better than anyone I know, he'd say with a grin, making her laugh despite herself. She hadn't been called Masi so often in her life. It felt odd, formal, yet affectionate. He said it with a mix of respect and warmth that tugged at something inside her. Rakesh was rarely home before 9 p.m., and on weekends, he was either at meetings or buried in spreadsheets. Karan, on the other hand, was always around. He asked about her day, shared music playlists, recommended movies, and even helped Arjun with his reading when Maya was tired. One evening, while watching a movie with Arjun between them, Maya laughed at a scene and glanced at Karan. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Just a flicker, a moment too quick to name, but it lingered. She told herself she was imagining things. He was just being kind, attentive. Still, the weeks passed, and Maya began to notice small changes in herself. She'd check the mirror twice before heading to the kitchen. She started wearing a touch of eyeliner, even though she told herself it was just out of habit. She laughed more, found herself looking forward to evenings, to conversations that felt alive. Karan was just company, she told herself, a temporary guest. But the lines between routine and intention blurred gradually. One late afternoon, Arjun had gone for a playdate, and Maya was alone, reading in the living room. Karan emerged from his room, holding his laptop, and sat across from her. They talked about books, movies, travel. The conversation drifted, meandering into personal stories. Maya shared tales from her college days, her dreams before marriage, the things she'd set aside. Karan listened with genuine interest, not the polite nodding of someone waiting for a turn to speak. You gave up a lot, he said softly, but you don't sound bitter. I'm not, she said, surprised at her own truthfulness. It's just life turns, you know? He nodded. You ever wish it turned differently? She paused. Sometimes. It was harmless, words floating in the air, not tethered to any action. But they stayed with her, even as she made dinner, even as Rakesh came home, kissed her cheek absently, and asked what the electricity bill was this month. The days carried on. Karen was careful, respectful. But his presence began to occupy more space in Maya's mind. Not in a reckless or wild way, but in small, steady thoughts. How he noticed when she was tired, how he offered to cook when she had a headache, how his eyes always met hers when she laughed. There was nothing inappropriate, no lingering touch, no whisper of anything forbidden. And yet, the quiet intimacy was undeniable. One rainy afternoon, Maya found herself in the balcony, watching the sky darken. Karan joined her with 2 cups of tea. "It's nice here," he said, sipping slowly. "Feels like a home." She smiled. "That's good. I wanted to feel that way for you." He looked at her, not smiling this time. "It does, more than you know." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable, but it was full, charged. Maya looked away, pretending to focus on the wet leaves. That night, she struggled to sleep. Not from guilt, not yet, but from confusion. From the realization that she felt seen in a way she hadn't in years. Rakesh was a good man, a steady husband. But steady could be distant, predictable, quiet. In contrast, Karan made her feel awake. Not like a woman nearing her late 30s, weighed by responsibilities and forgotten dreams, but like someone who still had a story to write, a life to shape. She tried to rationalize. She wasn't doing anything wrong. Karen was just family, a guest, a kind boy who happened to be thoughtful. Her thoughts didn't matter unless acted upon, and she wouldn't act on them. She had a child, a home, but the heart rarely listened to reason. A few days later, as she bent down to pick up Arjun's toys from under the table, Karan walked in, carrying groceries. She stood up too quickly, and they bumped into each other. "Sorry," she said, flustered. He steadied her by the elbow, and for a moment their eyes met again. Not accidental, not fleeting. That night, after dinner, Maya found herself standing in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes longer than necessary. Karan came in quietly and began drying them without being asked. Their hands brushed. Neither spoke. When she turned to thank him, he was already looking at her. His expression wasn't playful or teasing. It was serious, searching. "Masi," he began, but stopped. Maya felt her breath catch. "Yes," he hesitated. "Nothing, just, I'm glad I'm here." She nodded slowly. "Me too." The house was silent. Rakesh was asleep. Arjun too. Outside, the rain had started again, soft and steady. Maya knew this moment could end everything she'd built. But in it, she also saw the edges of a self she hadn't known in years. When she walked away that night, she told herself it meant nothing. Just a moment. But deep inside, she knew things had already shifted. And there would be no going back. The next morning, the house felt the same. Coffee brewing, cereal boxes on the counter, Arjun arguing with Maya about socks. But under the surface, something had changed. Or maybe something had finally surfaced. Maya tried to keep herself occupied. She swept the floor twice, reorganized the spice rack, and even trimmed the tulsi plant on the balcony, though it didn't need trimming. When she crossed paths with Karan, he smiled like always, friendly, casual, like the night before hadn't happened. But Maya couldn't forget the look in his eyes. She reminded herself over and over, he was her nephew, younger, temporary. This would pass. It had to. Still, as the week unfolded, their routines began to feel increasingly entangled. Karan started helping more around the house, not just with chores, but with Arjun, with small errands, with late-night conversations. Sometimes Maya would be reading on the sofa, and Karan would sit nearby, headphones in, silently scrolling. Neither said much, but the comfort between them filled the room in ways that words could not. One afternoon, Maya took Arjun to a birthday party across town. Rakesh was out on a work trip. Karan offered to tag along, but she told him to rest. The drive was long, the party chaotic. Maya made small talk with the other parents, but her mind wasn't fully there. On the way back, stuck in traffic, her thoughts drifted to Karan again, to how he had quietly become a fixture in their lives. And hers. When she returned home, Arjun ran to his room. Maya entered the kitchen and found Karan preparing tea. You didn't have to, she said, placing her purse down. He smiled. I figured you'd be tired. They sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. Outside, the evening sun cast long shadows. Was it a good party? He asked. Maya nodded. The usual? Noise, balloons, too much cake. He chuckled. Sounds like college, minus the balloons. She laughed, then paused. Karan, I need to say something. He leaned back, the smile fading just slightly. You've been wonderful, helpful, and I'm grateful, she said, careful with every word. But we need to be mindful. People talk, families assume, and I don't want misunderstandings. He listened, nodding slowly. You think something's happening? Maya looked down at her hands. Number. But sometimes silence can be louder than words. There was a long pause. I understand, he said finally. And you're right. She looked up, relieved and a little heartbroken at the same time. For the next several days, Karan kept his distance. Still polite, still helpful, but more reserved. He no longer lingered in the kitchen or joined her on the balcony. The house felt colder. And even though Maya had asked for this distance, it unsettled her more than she expected. Rakesh returned from his trip, exhausted and distracted. He barely noticed the shift in the house's energy. He ate his meals, watched the news, and fell asleep early. Maya tried to reconnect with him, tried to bring up conversations they used to have. But the connection felt worn, like an old cord pulled too tight over time. One evening, she walked into the living room to find Karan and Arjun building a Lego fort together. They laughed, teased each other, and Maya stood, quietly in the doorway, watching. It was a beautiful scene, safe, warm. But as she watched Karan glance up and meet her eyes with the briefest flicker of acknowledgement, she felt that same strange pull again. Later that night, after Arjun had gone to sleep and Rakesh was on a work call, Maya stepped out onto the balcony for air. The moon was full. The wind carried the scent of rain, and Karan was already there, leaning on the railing. I'll leave in a week, he said, without turning. She blinked. Why? My internship's remote. I can go back to Mom's and finish it from there. She said nothing. The silence between them stretched, uneasy. I don't want to complicate things for you, he added. Maya looked at him. You're not. It's me. I've been confused. He finally turned to face her. You're not the only one. Their eyes met again. This time, neither looked away. I keep thinking, he said, voice lower now, that maybe we met in the wrong way, or maybe we just felt seen at the right time. Maya's heart ached at the truth of it. It doesn't matter. There's a line, and we can't cross it. I know, he said, and yet they stayed standing there, side by side, for a long time, not touching, not speaking, just breathing in the same night air. The next day, Maya started packing up Karan's things for him, trying to do it quietly, without ceremony. But every item felt like a thread being pulled from a fragile web. She folded his shirts, careful not to leave a crease. She avoided thinking about what she was feeling, because there were no safe labels for it. Rakesh noticed Karan's packed bags that evening. You're leaving early? Yeah, Karan replied. Thought I'd go surprise Mom. All right, you've been a big help here. We'll miss you. Karan smiled, but Maya could tell it was just surface. That night they all had dinner together. Arjun was chatty, Rakesh distracted, Maya quiet. When Arjun went to bed and Rakesh fell asleep on the couch, Maya stood in the hallway, unsure of what to say. Karan came out of his room. "I didn't say goodbye properly," she said, voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. "Maybe some things are better unsaid." She stepped closer, hesitated, then simply reached out and took his hand for a moment. A quiet goodbye. No words, no promises. He left the next morning. Life resumed its rhythm. Rakesh remained absorbed in work, Arjun returned to school, and Maya filled her days with chores and errands. But something inside her had shifted. She looked at herself differently now, not as someone broken, but someone whose heart still beat for something more than duty. Months passed, seasons changed. Karen didn't visit again, though Mina occasionally sent updates about him. He was doing well, starting a small company, traveling, busy. Maya never reached out, neither did he. But she kept the photo they had taken together at a family lunch, long before anything complicated had grown between them. In the picture, Maya was laughing, Karan beside her, Arjun in her lap. She looked genuinely happy. That wasn't a fantasy, that was real, and it was enough. In time, Maya and Rakesh found their way back to each other in small ways. A shared joke, a weekend drive, a long forgotten song on the radio. They never spoke of what didn't happen or what almost did. Life was complicated, but forgiveness could be silent too. Maya never stopped being a wife or a mother, but she also never forgot that moment in the rain, the weight of being seen by someone unexpected. It didn't make her a bad person, it made her human. And sometimes that was the hardest truth to accept, and the most important one to remember. Nearly a year had passed since Karan left. The days had returned to their familiar rhythm: school runs, grocery lists, phone calls to relatives, and the occasional quiet weekend away from the city. On the surface, everything looked the same. But inside Maya, there had been a quiet rebuilding. She had never spoken to Karan again. There were no texts, no emails, just silence. But not a bitter one. It was more like the closing of a book she was never meant to finish, one she sometimes thought about but never opened again. Her relationship with Rakesh slowly began to mend, not in dramatic gestures or emotional confessions, but in small acts of awareness. He started coming home earlier, asking how her day had been, and once, even surprising her with a rose from a roadside vendor. Maya, in turn, began sharing more: her thoughts, her moods, her hopes for the future. One afternoon, while organizing an old photo album for Arjun's school project, Maya came across a picture of the four of them: her, Rakesh, Arjun, and Karan, standing in front of the garden. Everyone was smiling. It struck her as a beautiful moment frozen in time. Pure. Before anything became complicated, she didn't flinch. She didn't hide the photo. She placed it in the album between memories that belonged to the family as a whole. Later that evening, she sat on the balcony, watching Arjun play cricket in the yard, the setting sun casting long shadows on the walls. Rakesh joined her, 2 cups of tea in hand. "You okay?" he asked, handing her one. She nodded, watching their son with a soft smile. "Yeah, I am." And she meant it. Not every chapter in life had to be dramatic to be meaningful. Some were quiet, some complicated, but all of them shaped who she was becoming. Still a wife, still a mother, but also a woman learning to live with her heart open, even if just quietly, and only for herself. Sometimes the most important choices weren't the ones that changed the world, but the ones that helped you carry it more gently.